Howdy, folks. This is Dr. Gabriel Science, and welcome to Research Methods. Now, I'm 26, I'm Mexican, I come from Texas, and I've been teaching for 3 or 4 years now, and research methods is something that's really near and dear to my heart. If you'd like, you can call me Gabe or Gabriel, I don't mind. If you really need to say Dr. Science is fine by me, because my last name is basically just Science with a Z. Now, whenever I start my classes, I always like to start with a survey, just to get a little bit of information about who you guys are and what your place in life is right now. The survey is totally optional, and you can complete some of it or all of it if you like. You can be anonymous or you can tell me your name. We've got lots of questions in there about who you are, but there are also some questions in there that are going to try and start getting you think about not just the class as an online class, but also as a research methods class. So um, one way to start you thinking about psychology is to ask the following question. What is happiness? What is intelligence for you? Everyone's answer for those questions is going to be pretty personal. Everyone gives different answers. And in psychology, we deal with the fact that there are a lot of things that are inconsistent or vague or personal to people. And research methods is going to be all about how do we deal with that and cut through that so that we can get to some hard science and learn things about the world that are true for everybody. So, one thing we can say about intelligence and happiness is that while not everyone may have the same definition for them, according to some definitions that we have in psychology, the happier people are, the more intelligent people are, the happier everyone else is. So it's not so much that happiness makes you more intelligent, but that intelligence makes people happier. It's also, you have to be careful there because intelligence doesn't necessarily make you happier. The smarter you are, you're not necessarily happier. But the smarter your group of people is, the happier they will be. The smarter your society is, the happier they will be. And I think that's a really intelligent and pretty positive, wholesome, uplifting thing to know. If you'd like, feel free to check out this research paper. You've got the article there and all the information you need to find it. And going forward in this semester, we will be looking at what makes a good article, where to find research, how to assess or criticize articles. So maybe this article isn't perfect, based off of what definitions are they using for intelligence and happiness. Maybe those definitions work for you or maybe they don't. A lot of what we'll be doing in this semester is thinking about, well, what makes good science and what actually is research trying to say versus what it can or can't say, or did it do a good job of finding that information out. Okay, so a little bit of information about how the class is going to work. It is a totally online class, and we'll go through what you need to do in a moment. But the majority of the material that you need to learn is going to be delivered through lecture videos. Hopefully they won't be too boring, but I'm going to try and keep them down to around 10 minutes of time so that they're kind of bite-sized videos. The lecture notes are delivered through PowerPoints that are included in the videos, as well as they're going to be available online for you. And the PowerPoints are set up to make things easy for you to access them. Number one, all the vocabulary is going to be underlined so that it'll be easy for you to find it as well as to find the definitions. All the definitions for the vocabulary will be included in the PowerPoint, either in the PowerPoint itself or in the notes section, so be sure to look at those as well. We're also going to include stars on the slides that are particularly important. I'm not sure if I'm going to do this. We'll see how well people like it. The main idea is that I'll have lots of extra things in the class. Examples, stuff that you don't necessarily need to know, but that could be helpful. And so because that stuff is extra, I'm going to put stars on the slides that you definitely should be worried about for whenever we have tests. Now, if you're worried about our tests, I really want you to know that it shouldn't be too much of a worry for you. But before we get there, let's go through the syllabus and all the information about how the class is going to work, because I, to be honest, really hate getting questions about the class that we could have covered in the syllabus. So in the next couple of minutes, we'll take a look at everything you need to know to make sure that you know how to do well in the class. Now, to access all of our information, what you're going to do is go to your Canvas page for this class, and so it might be this one here, or it might be, I think the other one is W04. They should be almost exactly the same. And this is the first page that you'll see. It's got my picture, some information about the class. I'm going to include all of the course materials here at the bottom. So we're going to have our lecture videos as well as the PowerPoint slides. And one thing I'm going to tell you now, and I will repeat this, is that you do not need to buy the textbook. It's optional. It is my philosophy that I should be giving you all the information that you need, and so hopefully everything that you need will be included either here or as links to free stuff available on the internet. Okay, so let's take a look at just a quick look at the information here on the left. The majority of what you'll be doing in this class will be in this modules page. The class will be divided into modules, so we'll have this first welcome one here, as well as each week we're going to have one module which is the videos, as well as some activities for you to complete to make sure that you're understanding what's going on, and just to show me that you're actually participating in the class. Of course, we've got the grades section, assignment section. You don't really need to worry about that. That's just going to show you like the list of all the assignments, as well as when they're due. There's a chat button here. This is something that's kind of new for me. I haven't used it before, but presumably you could chat with other people or other students and ask people questions. So you say, hi, hello, hi, amazing. So a test student said that, but if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to pop them in there, and I'll be checking this periodically. One thing that I would like to be very, very clear about is that sometimes students will contact me via this email system here in Canvas. I would really prefer that you talk to me through this email that I've got here, or through that chat functionality, just because it's a lot easier for me to access that material. I'm also going to be setting up a texting service that should be available in the information for this first section here. So uh, we'll see how that goes after it gets set up. Let's take a look here at our syllabus. So when you open the syllabus, this syllabus is going to be everything that you need to know. What's going on? Come on, video. Okay. Great. Okay. Well, let me leave the student view. I know I can see it in my view. There we go. Okay, so the syllabus is going to be everything that you need to know in order to complete the class. You got the class information here, a little bit of information about myself. We're not going to have office hours since it's an online class. Just email me whenever you want, and I'll try and get back to you within about a day or so, a work day. Like I said, the textbook is not required. You are, however, required to have a laptop or a computer with internet connection. You can use your school computers if you like. I suspect this class will be totally completable on your phone. So if you have a phone, you may be able to just do it that way, just using your mobile data. Like I said, the textbook is not totally required. So here's the title as well as the author. If you want to find a version of that textbook, go for it. You don't need to though. Here's your description of and a bunch of information about the class. We're going to skip down here to the grading, which is going to tell you what you need to do for the course. There are 3 things you need to worry about. First, every week we're going to have a module with a couple videos. Each one of the videos or the module will have some amount of activities for you to complete. Each week I'll ask you to write out the vocabulary by hand. That is just going to show me that you are completing the the videos and that you're understanding what's going on. Part of the reason that I have you write the material out, the vocabulary out by hand, is so that you'll have something at the end of the semester that you can reflect back on if you ever want to. But another reason is that research shows that if you write things out, you will remember them better. Another thing is I'm asking you to write the vocabulary out in your own words. And so by writing the vocab out in your own words, you will remember them and understand them better. Okay, so as long as you pretty much accomplish all of the modules, the weekly activities should be set. They'll be due on the Sundays after every week. So this first set of activities is going to be due on Sunday the 24th, since that's the end of the first week of class. We're going to have 3 tests in the class as well. The tests really should not be something you worry too much about. As long as you're completing the weekly videos and modules, that really should be everything you need to know to perform the tests. I'm really going to be making the tests just based off of the stuff that we did in the modules. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. If you would like to review it, I'd say take a look through it and just make sure that you know everything that we did. We're also going to have a final paper. This is going to be a big part of your grade, but we're going to work on it over the course of the semester. There will be activities in the modules that have you complete parts of it, and then you'll get feedback on all of the parts, and at the end of the semester, really all you have to do is put it all together and update anything that I asked you to fix or change up for me. Okay, so here's the breakdown of points. Weekly activities are going to account for 42 points in the class. Each week is going to have about 3 points worth of activities. Our tests are going to be 45 points, and our final paper is going to be 33 points. Now, that adds up to 120 points in the class. And I really want to make this clear. You're graded out of 100 points. That means that there are 20 points of extra credit that you can earn just by completing the stuff in the class. Why have I set things up this way? Number one, I don't really like assigning extra credit opportunities for people. It is my opinion that everyone should have the exact same fair battleground to make sure that they have everything that they need to do well. Part of the reason I've included these extra 20 points right off the bat too is because we are currently in a pandemic. We are currently in strange times. We are doing online classes, which maybe people aren't familiar with or used to. And for whatever reason, maybe people will need to be away from school or unable to complete school for some times. I totally understand. Things are crazy right now. So, as long as you get 90 points total, just add up to 90 points, you will have an A in this class. So if you look here, uh, if you accomplish all of the activities and all of the tests, that's almost 90 points. That's 87 points. So as long as you get a uh, so if you accomplish all of the activities and all of the final paper, that is going to get you to about a 70, almost an 80. And so it would be really easy to get just a couple of points on the tests to bring you up to a B or an A. The point in is that I'm really not trying to make this class difficult. As long as you accomplish all the things that you are supposed to accomplish, you're probably going to get an A in the class. That is not to say that the class is supposed to be easy or very little work, just that I understand things are tough right now. So if you need to know what grade you're going to get in the class, you can check out your grades here, but be aware this is how things are set up, and so you really don't need to come to me to understand how your grades are doing. But if you'd like to talk about this or anything else in the class, feel free to let me know. I'm happy to set up an email. We can set up a Zoom meeting if you like, or whatever it takes to get you in a place where you feel comfortable and ready to accomplish everything you need to. I'm going to avoid taking any late work just because everything is completable ahead of time, and because we do have so many extra points built into the class. But if you have extenuating circumstances, we can talk about it and we'll see if we can do something for you. We've got, of course, all this extra information here for you. These resources are very helpful. If you need help accessing internet, a computer, if you get pregnant or get sick, stuff like that is going to be available here. Okay, so the other most important thing for you is going to be our semester schedule. This first week we're going to cover chapter 1. The stuff in this first week shouldn't be too difficult. Should take about 1 or 2 hours to accomplish everything. And my goal is going to be that you need to work on this class for at most a couple, say 3 or 4 hours a week. I supposedly students have anywhere from 5 to 10 hours a week per class for these 3 course hour credits. Uh, that may come to be true moving forward when we get to some of the activities associated with these final paper things. We're also going to have some bigger activities that aren't necessarily part of the modules that may take a little bit more time. So we won't always have the same amount of time each week, but ideally it shouldn't be more than a couple of hours. So hopefully it should be a reasonable amount of work for you, neither too easy nor too hard. You'll see that the tests are pretty much set up about every 4 or 5 weeks. So the first test is chapters 1 through 5. Second test, whoops, that's a typo there, should be, oh, no, it's not a typo. It should be chapters 6 through 10, covering weeks 7 through 10, and then the rest of that information there. You'll see the chapters are not necessarily in exactly the right order, just because I picked the order that seems to make the most sense for me. If you'd like to follow along in the textbook, those are the chapters that we're kind of basing ourselves on, but you don't really need to do that as long as you follow the modules and complete the assignments. Alright, so back to the PowerPoint. We've looked at the syllabus. Let's take a look at just a little bit information on how to do well in the class, and we'll be done for this welcome video. So as a cognitive psychologist, my area of research, my area of expertise is in helping students do well in school. What that means is that I have done a bunch of research and work in the field of studying and how students do on tests. Because of that, I know quite a few things on how to help you study for tests and do well in classes. So I've organized the modules and activities with these research effects in mind, but this may also be useful information for other classes that you take. So number one, the production effect is an effect that says that whenever you produce information, you remember it more easily. What does that mean? It means that if you say something out loud, if you write something down, if you draw a diagram about information, you will remember that information more easily. Next is the generation effect. Kind of like the production effect, the generation effect is all about how if you come up with information on your own, you will remember it more easily. So this is why I have you not just write out the vocabulary, which would count for the production effect, but write out your vocabulary with your own definitions, your own words. That means that the generation effect will help you remember the vocabulary a little bit better. These two also are in play with all of the activities that we're performing. The testing effect merely says that when you test yourself on information, you remember it better. The activities are designed to essentially be mini tests of your understanding of the material. The spacing effect is the idea that if you work with information over multiple periods or multiple days, you will remember it better. So we're not necessarily accomplishing the spacing effect through the activities here, but we will be accomplishing it in two ways. First is that a lot of the stuff we do in this class will build on previous stuff. And the second is that you will be tested and writing your papers in those things are going to essentially act as a spacing effect. Like I said, the tests really shouldn't be too hard. You shouldn't worry about them too much, and so you can almost think of them as quizzes. So something that will make you work on something so that you can remember it better in the future. Just kind of as a lifelong learning activity. The sleeping effect, this one's interesting. If you work on something, if you think about something, if you study something right before bed, you will usually remember it and learn it better for a longer period of time. And this is because when you sleep, you kind of get rid of useless information that happened throughout the day, and you solidify stuff that you do want to remember. And so because the last thing you did was study, that's what you remember best. If you study in the morning, you will remember what you studied, but it won't be as good as if you studied shortly before bed. Plus, studying or doing homework for online classes is one of the best ways to fall asleep, so I really encourage you to work on that before bed. Finally, metacognition and mindfulness. Metacognition means thinking about thinking. Cognition means thinking, and meta means repeated, so thinking about thinking. And what this means is, as a student, it's important that you identify for yourself, do I know the information that I'm learning? Have you ever read a passage and then realized that you didn't actually understand anything that you read? Well, metacognition is all about thinking, did I understand what I just read? Do I know this information? And so by performing testing or generation, you will give yourself opportunities to notice, hey, I understand this, or I need to go back and revise and review this before I can complete the activity. The reason metacognition is so important is because the better you know whether you know something, the better you can tell whether you need to study it more before you can move on, or whether you're ready to do the next activity. Like I said, I have really designed this class to be uh, perfect for learning stuff. A big part of the reason I do that is because I just really care that you actually take things away from these classes. I believe psychology is one of those topics that is so fundamental to life that if you're not taking things into your daily life from your psychology classes, I'm doing something wrong. Another thing to be aware of is that um, when you accomplish all of the activities the way that I've set them up, you really should hopefully take that stuff away for the future. And one of my most favorite things to hear from students is that when they're talking to their friends or family, they suddenly realize, hey, I'm using this thing that I learned in this class. I love that. It's my favorite thing to hear. And so I hope that not only you can have a fun time in the class, but that you can use this material for your life. If you do want to study for tests, or if you need to study for other classes, I recommend that you use teaching as a method of studying. What does that mean? Well, when you teach, you have to produce the information, say it, you have to generate it, explain it in your own words, you're testing whether you know the information, you're spacing because presumably you learned it at some point and then later you taught it, and you're using metacognition. You have to assess, did I explain that in a way that made sense? When you teach the information, you are essentially learning the information at the highest level you can learn. Why do teachers always seem like they know everything? Because teaching is the best way to study. Now, you don't need to actually teach this to another person, although I don't know why someone else wouldn't love a free college course from their friend. But if you want, feel free to just teach it to yourself or to your cat or to a mirror. Just whenever you explain material to someone else or to something else or just out loud, you will remember it better moving forward. Okay, so last thing I have in this class, just want to reiterate a few things. What is the point of this class? Number one, I want to make sure that you learn how to design quantitative psychology studies and experiments. Oh gosh, what does that even mean? Well, this second one will help you understand. I want to make sure that you learn how to read and understand academic writing. I want to make sure that you know how to take in research, think about what it means, think about whether it's good research or bad research, think about if you have any complaints or compliments for the research, and make sure you learn how to write academic papers. Now, as college students, you don't really need to know how to do that. But if you know how to do it, that'll make you much better at reading and understanding research, and that will make you much better at designing your own studies and experiments. Why do you need to make up your own experiments? Well, the thing is, everyone in the world should know how to come up with their own experiments. If you buy a new gadget, if you get a new phone and you're trying to learn how it works, you're going to go through a series of experiments, trials and errors to figure out how things work. And the same thing is true for people. If you want to be a good leader, then you need to learn how to perform experiments with people to see what works and what doesn't. If you want to be a good worker, same thing. Really, being able to perform experiments and gather data is one of the most fundamental things about how people work, because it's how we learn how the world works. Why is this class useful? I've already said this a couple of times, but just to reiterate, experimental design is highly marketable. So not only is it really good and useful for you to be a good consumer and critiquer of research, it's also really good to be able to say to your potential employers, hey, I know how to figure things out. I can design experiments, I can gather data, I can write things out in a formal academic way, and we'll actually learn a little bit of statistics so that you can actually manage your data and analyze it as well. So hopefully you'll get a heck of a lot out of this class. So this is Dr. Gabriel Science, and that brings us to the first chapter, which we'll be talking about in that Module 1, the role and importance of research. I hope you're excited to do well in this class, and I hope that you'll be able to take out lots of important and useful things from here. Um, Let me know if you have any questions or concerns. As always, contact via email is the best way, scienceg@otc.edu, and I'll see you in the modules.